I first met Lee Ann Heltzel at the IANS conference in 2023 and again in 2024, where she was a resident artist. She created a piece of art right there at the conference and explained about what it was and how it worked. And that's when I got intrigued because what she was telling us was that she was enlisted by spirit to create a painting with a certain energetic pathway. And that pathway could be joy, peace, love. And the one she did in 2024 at the conference was Crossing the Veil, which, of course, would be perfect for a near death conference, right? So I just knew I had to have her on here to explain how that works and why, when people sit in front of this piece of artwork, that they have this sense of that frequency coming to them, and that in the case of her last painting, Crossing the Veil, that they could use that energetic pathway that was established between Leanne and the painting, that we could just jump right into that and then have the ability to move into the non physical easily and be able to interpret things that come to us. So, there are a couple things in this interview that I would love for you to just watch for. One is her origin story, which comes right up front, and I think it's intriguing. The second one is how she talks about synesthesia. She doesn't use that word, but in our woo-woo world of the near-death experiences, what that means is that we have cross senses. And in her case, her paintings will sometimes come with music. Crossing the Veil comes with incense, frankincense to be specific, so that when you're viewing the painting, it has this ability to cross senses. So all of these senses working at once helps inform you about the message that's being conveyed to you. And I think that's just terrific. Um, in preparation for her ability to do this, um, she has learned automatic writing and has done that for a long time. She's been a death doula, done that for a long time. So this isn't a new gig for her. This opening up and being able to communicate with the spirit world, but this particular manifestation is. And I think you're going to really, really like this interview. I think it opened my eyes, and I hope it opens yours too. Okay, here's Leanne's official bio. Lee Ann Heltzel, creator of MetaArt and a death doula, explores the powerful intersection of art and spirituality in her piece Crossing the Veil, which she channeled at the 2024 IANS conference. Experience channeled art is designed to connect you with realms beyond the physical, offering a pathway to peace, integration, expanded awareness, and communication. Crossing the Veil was created with and for the IANS community and now exists as a portal to the other side. Art can serve as a bridge between two worlds, guiding individuals toward a more profound understanding and connection with the unseen. Witness how art can serve as a spiritual tool for personal transformation as we meditate with frequency based art. Meta art is a new genre of visual art. These abstract frequency paintings carrying a specific energetic signature, when combined with ocular meditation, that's with your eyes open, the frequency bypasses the mind and engages directly with the pineal gland, which opens up our consciousness. It's a wonderful thing. Here's our interview with Leanne. Leanne, welcome to the Afterlife Files. We are really glad to have you with us.
Thanks so much, Scott. I'm thrilled to be here.
And for all of my viewers and those guests that are here from the Shift Network, we are really happy that Leanne is here to tell about herself and MetaArt and in particular that extraordinary painting that's, right behind her shoulder there. So, Leanne, about tell us your origin. How did you get to this place?
Yeah, I know, Scott, right? How does a person get to a place where they paint frequency? It certainly wasn't on a vision board. It wasn't a planned path. As simply and as quickly as I can explain it, I have always been on a spiritual path my entire life, and I naturally stepped into just as a seeker of human potential and spirituality, stepped into my gifts, the gifts that I came on to this incarnation with as a death doula. And so for many decades, I've worked with people that have passed by request of their loved ones to, just check on them and make sure that they've completely passed over, as well as working with people on the side of spirit that are actively dying. So, that was something. I work with Christ consciousness, and very much I feel has been my greatest, most important capacity is that I have. So I was doing that for, like I said, decades. And I also own a marketing firm, which when I opened my own company in 2010, I'd gotten to the point of feeling like there's like two of me, like I was living my life in silos. Like there's this Leanne that is a spiritual seeker. She studies under Jean Houston. She travels the world, hearing what different gurus have to say. And then there's this Leanne that makes sure that catalog file gets to press on time. And I love both of those things, but I wanted to be fully me. And I just kind of claimed that. And and the most interesting thing happened. This I'll use the words I heard or I understood, and that's the communication with Christ consciousness as I believe it, right? And so what I heard was um you can tap into these higher multidimensional aspects of a person if they're, in the process of crossing. And you can go in there on any human being as long as you have their permission. And so I started testing it with my marketing clients, and I go into what I call a person's fully realized divine self. I use that phrase instead of higher self, but there's because to me, the fully realized divine self resides on fully realized divine earth. That multidimensional space that exists where everything on that planet is in its most fully realized state. And I locate people there. And I have communications with that person in their highest space. And so that's how I started with all of my marketing clients. If you're going to work with me, I'm going to have that communication with you first, obviously share it with the client. If it's a company with many people that own it, then I see a people, all those souls, and where those souls come together with the intention to bring something sacred to earth. So I can only work with organizations that are here to do that. I call that the creation point, where all those souls met and said, let's do this together. And so I started doing these readings for people. And then I'm in that space, and anything I'm creating through my marketing firm, whether it's branding or marketing strategy, is coming from that highest perspective, that 50,000 foot view. And so that was wonderful. And I was having a great time. And in 2017, I got the very clear message that I was to get rid of everything I owned and I was to get on the road. And that it was in that sense of surrender that I would find how I could expand that gift. So, sure enough, I told my marketing clients, hey, we're going to work on this marketing plan. Why don't we work to face? Just put me up somewhere and give me a place to sleep, and I'll go. And that was a 3.5-year-old process that only ended because of COVID. So my first stop was I'm in Pennsylvania. I went to Tucson, Arizona, and that client said to me, Leanne, that sacred place in me that you access, take me there. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, let's see if we can do that. And and that was the beginning of what became retreats that I have been doing and continue to do to the concept of when two or more are gathered. So I have this capacity to kind of go into that highest state of a person, and obviously they do too because it's them. And when two or more are gathered, there's this interesting process that easily happens that the person can literally step into that body of that fully realized divine self. It's a very liminal experience. And so started doing that with my marketing clients. And immediately, what again, Christ consciousness that I heard was there needs to be something physically in this reality that exists in that reality. It's an automatic painting. And I'm like, okay, I'm very familiar with automatic writing. That's how the whole insights, that communication that I do for people, that's, basically how that started. So, okay, I'm going to do that. And so I started offering that in my retreats. We take trips into that higher space, I call them. And then at first I was painting the painting, and then it turned into my clients painting the paintings. So that was happening. If there were 3 clients in the retreat, there were 3 canvases, and then each of them would take one because the painting acts as a portal or a bridge to get back into that highest state. So the businesses I was working with were basically use the painting as a tool to obtain that highest perspective of potentials that we as humans in this reality have a hard time accessing pure potential of what the individual is here to do or what an organization can do. So they use it as a tool either individually or together. And so I never worked with the paintings because it was for them, and off they went with them. And then COVID happened, and I am at my best friend's home for 8 months. God bless them. We had a blast. I got the instruction to channel the frequency of peace. And so set up, I made a walk-in closet on my studio, and I channeled this painting. And it wasn't until then I had the painting, and it called to me. And that's when I realized or understood like kind of the science behind it. I could feel like every molecule in my body was like vibrating peace. And the painting would spin, it would sparkle, it might go completely white. Um, Messages were coming through. So I was finally able to access it and use it as the portal that it is. But for it to be this one simple frequency that I believe are divine frequencies, so the divine frequency of peace. And so the first thing I do is I have that complete communication, right? And it comes through as a message that I articulate, I write down. So I have a frequency communication, and then I understand, I can feel that frequency kind of lock into my system. And then I can basically step aside and allow the painting to come through. So I'm actually being told, do this, do that, use these two colors. Um, and I am a trained artist. I went to art school. I went into art direction and graphic design, and it was decades since I had painted. And honestly, all the painting, anything I had learned out the window. I do things all the time that I think, well, here we go. I'm going to mess this up because that's not what you do when you paint. So that's kind of how the process has been happening. And since peace, I I've done joy and love and grace and unity. And as I understand it, they're divine frequencies that exist throughout the cosmos. And so this is nothing new, right? It's just a new way for something that pure to engage with humanity. And so I don't choose. I knew for a year I was going to heal the channel the frequency to heal. And it wasn't until I get the go ahead that I'm to begin. Um, when I knew I was painting love, I was instructed to add sound, add sacred sound. And it was like, well, I'm not a musician and I don't know any musicians. And within 24 hours, with love, and it's consistent ever since, within 24 hours, I meet the musician. So with love, the musician said, I've always had this dream to have the actual paints that an artist is going to use. And so I intuited what I was going to need, shipped them to him, and he put them on a cymatics table for 6 weeks, hitting it with the 528 frequency of love. So each time I have this conversation, which I call meta insights, I hear, what's the size? How many are there? Sometimes it's a series of paintings that I'm painting all at the same time. Is there sound? There is sound. Okay. And go from there. And so it's I now realize that those 3.5 years that I was on the road living in complete surrender, not knowing where I was going to be in 7 days, was training me to be in utter surrender to bring in these paintings, right? Because um, I couldn't have done it prior to 2017. So that kind of, I think, brings us up to kind of date with where these all came from.
So the painting behind you is called Crossing the Veil. Tell us a little bit about the process for that painting and how that evolved because wow, this is an interesting story.
Yeah, it really is, Scott. So I actually was at the 2023 IANS conference. I was exhibiting there with as an exhibitor for my art, and I got this very clear message that to to create that bridge, that tool, that portal to the other side of the veil. And boy, that really aligned with me being a death doula. And I just it just felt like my death doula work and the paintings just completely came together. So super excited about it. And when Ians accepted, my proposal to come, I began with that dialogue, right, with this frequency. And so I would love to share some of the meta insights with you. Would you like that?
Sure.
It kind of it sets the stage, right? Because this is like I kind of told you my timeline, right, of how everything happened, but this is the timeline of how this particular painting happened. So the conference was in August, and so this all began in like February, early on. And so I won't read the whole meta insights. I'll just read whatever kind of seems important for me to say. So let's see. Um, the individuals within ions are looking for answers, guidance, and tools to navigate either their own NDE, navigate their own aspects around death, or hone their skills to reach the other side. And so I ask, how would a meta art painting serve? You well know that as the evolution occurs within humanity, whether we're aware of it or not, new capacities come online. Some may call them psychic abilities. Um, it really doesn't matter what they're called. Many words and phrases and concepts may describe it, but don't really focus much on there because sometimes that we can judge whatever we call that process, right? But so let's see, let me bounce down. You see, life can evolve either vertically or horizontally. Horizontal evolution may not look like progress or movement forward because it allows this repetition of maladies to occur. And it spirals around and evolves upward, but over and over again, right? We're experiencing many of the same maladies. And so a vertical evolution is when groundbreaking leaps that the collective takes together occurs. It's based on the deep soul desire to experience more fully realized divine earth. And so there's many whys and hows that this is happening, but to understand that when we go vertical, we're in a virgin space where everyone must find their own path to the universal truths and what humans are capable of. So, this painting is a mechanism, a tool to reground into a new foundation of this universal truth. It calms the inner chaos when that occurs, and it calms the outside reflection of life occurring. The micro heals the macro. The painting allows the dust to settle within the self so that these gifts can be recognized outside of judgment or fear or any conditioning. And so understanding that, right, is what I needed. Like, okay, I'm in. I understand this. And from there, it was just, getting the rest of the details. It's to be a door. So I most of my paintings are very vertical in nature because they are physical doors. And they typically have a doorknob on them. And I haven't found the perfect doorknob yet. But what came through with this one wasn't sound, it was actually scent. And
Mm.
so what if you purchase either the original or one of the larger reproductions, it comes with unrefined frankincense. And this is directly from Egypt. And it's actually made from a family that their lineage goes all the way back to Nefertiti. So it's all this like magical things then that right that start to come into place. So that piece came in, and then it was showing up, setting up at the conference, which people that have been there know it's hundreds of people, and opening the invitation for people that feel guided to contribute. So well over a dozen people contributed to this painting, and that energy from everything that was happening at the conference, from the people that did, put paint on their hands or on a brush and contribute to it, is all a part of this collective energy with this piece that support. It's here to support NDEs, STEs, everything like that. The one thing I love, and I don't know if you can actually see it in the painting, I might be blocking it. There's a little at the very last day, Vinny's son, 3 years old, contributed this little sun that's blue. And after he was done and it was drying, a gentleman came over with a didgeridoo and he said, "May I play the painting?" And he played the painting. And as soon as it got to that blue sun, it sounds like Morse code.
Oh
And as
my.
soon as he moved away from the sun, it stopped. And he said, "That sound's never come out of this instrument before." So there's just so much beautiful energy in it.
And so you started the painting the first day of the conference, is and it you just kept going after it and after it, depending upon your inspiration at the moment. Did I get
Yeah,
that right?
so yeah, I mean, I'm taking direction, Scott. I'm literally listening. So for the first day and a half, I was painting on it, but it was the time to have people contribute to it. So I had the full meta insights there for people to read. I had a little process for them. Read the meta insights, close your eyes, stand before the painting, feel the energy, and then listen. And that's what I do, right? Is oh, magenta? Okay, whatever it is that needs to occur. And so that was a day and a half. And to be honest, these paintings usually take weeks or months because I don't go to the canvas, which in this case is a door, until I kind of see it in my third eye. Not exactly the detail, but I know the directive is there. And so that was one of my really big questions when I did my meta insights was, can I create this in 5 days? Can that even happen? It was like, yep, it can. And so it's this constant being open, listening, and basically doing as I'm guided.
And so that's the energy of 12 people being put into a painting. What have you found out on the reverse technique where people stand in front of the painting? How do they get information from it?
Yeah, it's so fascinating because it's such an easy process. All you do with these paintings is best to sit in front of them because you can get a little like off kilter. You just sit in front of the painting, you pick a spot wherever your eye is kind of drawn to. It's usually like a little dot or something, a little circle. And you just sit and you go, oh, okay, okay, and relax your gaze. And we'll actually experience that in a short time here with an actual meditation. But that's all you do. And you could be a person that says, "Oh, I can't focus to meditate. My mind's really busy." When you're looking at the artwork, and if there's sound, especially then too, your mind is occupied, right? It's viewing something. And so the way it's technically works is the frequency is entering your retina, engaging with your hypothalamus that then goes to your pineal gland. So, what the frequency is doing is bypassing the intellect, able to reach the pineal gland and engage with it. And when that happens, the viewer that's when it'll start to spin, it'll go very three-dimensional. It may the edges might become undefined and you don't know where the wall is and the painting is. Anything can happen. And so this painting, I will say, it was far more than the energy of those 12 people. It was the energy of everything happening, all the souls that were at the conference, and setting the stage, building the bridge, building the tool so that anybody can easily sit with this painting and engage. And so I'll give you some examples of,
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Yeah, where have people been with this?
yes, remarkable. And again, like I'm always in awe. This isn't like, this will never get old for me. The first person that sat with the painting still at the conference, she's worked with my paintings before and it immediately started to go three-dimensional. There was one little blue dot that started kind of vibrating. And so she said, I want to see my brother. He had passed 30 years ago. And immediately she could see him with her own eyes in the painting. And so he said to her, so she could hear him too, I'm going to show you what I looked like then, and I'm going to show you what I look like now. And
Oh,
that's what
nice.
she saw. She saw him, in his early 30s, how he looked. And then she said, "Do I want to see you how you look now?" And all of a sudden he became this brilliant column of light with streaming greens running through it. And she was just overcome with how that felt. And and he also gave her some additional information about some people living now, that are alive, that he wanted to give her some messages about, which he did. And then um, she she started to kind of second guess herself and started thinking, maybe this is all in my head. Maybe I just really want to see my brother, and maybe I'm just making all this up. And at that moment, she felt like a warm hand on her neck. So she felt him.
Oh my. That's
Extraordinary. Extraordinary. And obviously she was very emotional for actually several hours after that. And so another person, when I brought the painting home, I actually exhibited it at Lilydale in New York State, which is a community of mediums. And a woman sat and meditated with it. And I didn't realize that she had had an NDE 20 years prior. And she re-experienced the NDE and some.
that's extraordinary.
Yes. And so afterwards, she was, pointing at areas of the painting, going, this was Mother Mary was here and the hand of God. And here, these were all my loved ones. But it was that experience of feeling that love again, and that everything is as it should be. And these really deep, kind of hard to describe experiences that you experience during an NDE. And she viewed it as such an incredible blessing to have that. And she's like, they took me and they said, we're not going any farther. This is a gift. And so honestly, it's extraordinary to hear these stories. A recent one that just happened a few days ago, a woman, somebody that in her life when she was young, that she didn't even realize he had passed on, came through and explained to her something very actually violent that happened to her in her childhood, how at his hands, how that happened, why it happened, what was the bigger cosmic story of why it happened, how it affected all these lives that were part of their evolutionary path. And so for her to have, she said that it goes so beyond closure, because to see what something that was actually not pleasant was such a key point in my life and in my growth and who I am today. And he had actually, because she asked him, had actually reincarnated already. So this portal is, and they always are, exactly what that person needs. So you sit with it in a pure heart with no expectations, and simply allow and trust um the little messages that you get when you're looking at it, and know that when the painting does start to do something, moving or spinning or what have you, that's it connecting with your pineal gland, and let that happen.
Let it rock. Excuse me. So I'm guessing that sometimes people, when they sit with your painting, they know the origin story. Sometimes they don't. Um, and is there a difference in how they react based on that expectation?
Not at all. I've not seen that at all, because there's been many instances that they have not heard the origin story, like 2023 conference, right? I'm just there with my painting. So I don't have an opportunity to let everybody know. They're just drawn to the painting and they, want to, and it's this simple instruction of pick one spot, relax your gaze. If there's music, here's a headset. A lot of times that's all people actually have.
And excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Does everybody interact with the painting? Ever had any duds?
Well, it's a degree, right? Like I always look at it as, like a dial. The very um I don't want to say more or less, but I've not had anybody not experience something, right? Like just an increasing feeling of expansion or peace or groundedness. Again, the way I understand it is that frequency is going to work wherever and however with the person multidimensionally. So I always explain to people you could meditate with it today and you will have a completely different experience the next time you meditate with it because you're in a different place and the frequency is able to engage in a different place. And so um, to me, it's like we can't really gauge it, right? Because something could be massively occurring on a multidimensional level and not in that person's current psyche as they're looking at the painting. But there's always something. And at the very least, it's a how do I just feel really good, you know? So, and there's, a variety of paintings heal. For example, I've had everything from that to a person that had such, and it actually happened at Ions, such a huge healing that she had a seizure. And afterwards, she was prone to seizures. And afterwards, a day and a half later, when I, came across her at the conference, she grabbed my hand and thanked me profusely. She said, I've just never had anything that massively wonderful happen before. And she looked 15 years younger. And so, you know,
Oh, so
I don't,
this is a seizure in a good way, as opposed to
yes. And
um, going
afterwards,
toes up or something. Yeah.
yeah, because like I said, she was, prone to them. And if anybody's ever been to an IONS conference, there's a lot of healers in the room. And all the healers were saying to me, because Scott, I was freaking out. Oh my, and and they were all saying to me that was that big of a healing that occurred. She actually was paralyzed from the waist down. And so the energy just, wasn't able to perhaps completely go through her. That's when I view it as my role is to be the conduit to bring these in, and it's whomever chooses to work with the painting in whatever way, if it's the original or reproduction, to find how they bring it to people. So that was a very unusual experience for me because again, I'm not usually the one sitting there with participants meditating with them.
So, if I can summarize this kind of, you get an idea for a painting, you you call upon the right tools and techniques that will be appropriate. You set the intention, and the other people who will contribute, like at the IONS conference, we set the intention, and then we put the art on the canvas with that intention. And then later, people are able to step into that energetic pathway that you um, and the canvas have created together. Do I have it right?
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely it. The only thing that I'll emphasize is that I don't choose the frequency, it chooses me. And that's to me the most important part. I could go months and because I've got my studio right in my home and I could pass the door and go, nothing. Not, I'm not painting anything. And then usually it happens in the middle of the night. It's like, oh, okay, I'm painting. This is an interesting story. Make it quick. Last year we had a total eclipse of the sun last April. And the summer before, I got a clear directive. You need to be on the total line of eclipse, the total line where the,
Yep.
right? And so, okay, I rented an Airbnb right on the line of the total eclipse, as close as I could to my house. And that was great. I didn't know what frequency was coming in. And it wasn't until about 6 weeks before the eclipse happened that I got the instruction, okay, do the meta insights, inquire. And I didn't realize that was actually the opening of the portal for the total eclipse. And because I'm not really privy on like, astrological things. And so, but the message was that it is grace because what we're moving into, we need grace and we need to understand truly what grace is and the power of it. So, okay. And is it a door? Yes, it's a door. Okay. Does it have music? Yes, it has music. And within 24 hours, I met the musician, never met her before then. And the other thing that I got with that painting was it's going to require water from all sacred water from all over the globe. And oh, oh
Wow.
my
How do you get
goodness.
that?
Okay, so back again, 2017, I'm on the road living in surrender, and I'm working with a group. And this young woman comes over to me and hands me a vial, a small vial of water. And she said, this was gifted to me from a shaman that for 20 years went to every sacred major waterway on the globe and did a blessing, did a whatever, and took a few drops. And I'm to give it to you. And I remember my response being kind of dumbfounded, like, well, I don't know, I don't work with water. Like, and so nope, you're supposed to have it. So all these years it's been sitting on my altar. And so when I realized, oh my goodness, I have sacred water from all over the world. This is so cool to see that synchronicity from how many years prior. And so I didn't tell the musician this. I just said, you know what I'm going to do is every couple layers, because there's several layers of the paintings, I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to send it to you. She channeled Grace through reading my meta insights, and then she channels on the piano. So her response to me after the first, one that I sent to her, she said, Leanne, here's my first take on the music. You just need to understand that this music is going to sound very watery.
No.
Okay. Like it's all this, like these magical little threads that will never get old to me, right? And so it's just as much of a kind of a magical journey for me creating the piece as it is for the person that then sits with it.
Awesome. We're bumping up against our time limit here. So, two things. One, how do people get a hold of you, see your work, get more of your story, and any last thoughts that you would like to impart that we haven't talked about yet?
Yes. Well, it is my name. My website is my name, leanneheltzel.com. I know you'll put that in the description. And there's a page there, a couple pages regarding the art. I would say that the only thing else I'd like to say is that this is how I came into my greater capacity, but every person has their own path into their most divine capacity. And as we evolve as humans, those capacities are coming online. And so you don't have to have a plan. You just have to be open that you're here for a divine reason and to allow that to come to you.
Lovely. And what a great way to end our conversation. Leanne, thank you for being with us here at the Afterlife Files. I have really enjoyed this conversation.
Thanks, Scott.
I knew you would like that interview. I had a good time doing it. I hope you did too. There are a couple things in there that I thought were interesting. She used the words fully realized self as a way of describing higher self. And I actually really like that idea that um, higher self has been kind of corrupted and nobody's really sure what it means anymore. But using the words fully realized self has this sense of, oh, we are in a place where we are more than we think about here in the physical world. So I think I might adopt that language because it seems to have more oomph to it, and it has this sense of that we are a whole, that we exist in unity with the loving consciousness that is the universe. That's thing number one. And thing number two is this idea that you can sit in front of a painting, look at it, pick something out in it, and then soften your gaze to not focus on anything in particular and just let the frequency in, just not really engage with um, the details. And that works wonderfully. And you can also do the opposite, which will also move you into that space, which is to look at the brushstrokes and what are they trying to convey. Look at the shadows and what meaning is there for that. Look how the colors interplay with each other. And how about one of my favorites is when you're in front of an artwork to move a little closer to it and then just use your body to kind of follow along the pathways that are in the art and this engagement of the kinesthetic sense also informs us. It helps us to jump into that energetic pathway that's been developed between the artist, the artwork, and you. And so anyway, I offer that. I love her technique, and you can just flip it on its head and pay attention to the details because they will also get you in. Thanks for being with us here at the Afterlife Files. We'll see you next time.